Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. Take a look at our space weather. We're looking at a 454 even kilometers per second on our solar wind. Our density is coming in at 8.9, and the stats haven't changed since earlier except for the KP indice. Still spotless 14 days in a row with 183 days without sunspots in 2019. KP indice of 4, and our TCI index is at a 4.14, so it slightly went up. I want to show you real quick, since we're talking about sunspots and whatnot. Thank you to the Starman out there, David. He has come up with a chart that shows us spotless days from the last maximum that we had. So in 2014 to the current maximum, we had 817 days of without sunspots. So that started all over again after our solar max. And since our last solar max, right now, as we stand right now, we are sitting at 540 days without sunspots. And how much more is that number going to go up? And I have a feeling that we're going to see it well past 1,000 at the rate that we're going right now. 14 days in a row, like I said, without sunspots now. 183 days without sunspots in 2019. Also, want to point out that we still have about more than 90 days left in 2019. So very good chance that we could definitely top the spotless day count from last year, which was 221 days without sunspots. This year, could it be 240? Could it be 260? Still too early to tell, but there is plenty of year left to count down, so we will continue to monitor that as well. Let's take a look at our space weather section here at the grandsolarminimum.com. As you take a look here, KP indices just recently spiked to a 4. 24-hour max was at a 4, but here recently, just before we went on air, we saw the increase of KP indices, which means that that coronal hole in the very southern part of our star is now affecting our magnetic field. Nothing major. Again, it did not spark a G1 or anything like that. So let's take a look at we already know what the SDO's got for us, but let's take a look at the whole picture here. There's that coronal hole I was talking about, right around the negative 90 look. If you take a look right now, nothing so sunspots as far as that's concerned. But we do have a pretty large area of a coronal hole that is above the equatorial region. So we will watch that. That is just beyond the eastern limb of our star, so that should be anytime soon. And let's take a look at our TSI reading for September 9th, 2019. Came in at just a 1360.668, and I swear last night it was at a 1360.667. So TSI is back to its old self, creeping up and down, barely moving at all. All right, let's go ahead and go to thegrandsolarminimum.com. Tonight's show headline, CO2 regulations rescinded by EPA and AMELDA update as well. First of all, I want to show this. Is this the chart that I shared with you?
Is it not?
No, but that's okay, because that's one of them. It's on my Twitter feed.
Just go to Twitter.
Yeah, I'll just go to Twitter and look it up. Why not? All right, let's do that before we actually get any further into the show, because that that's kind of important to me. Kind of the reason why I wanted to jump on the show tonight. I wanted to show you guys a couple things. I just thought it was really odd, all the CO2 talk tonight, more than usual. And this was before we saw the show, or I'm sorry, we saw the article that came out about the EPA rescinding auto emission regulations. Now, the funny part about this is that we've talked about with Greta last night about how CO2 was so important, and if it really was causing climate change, then why don't we stop it all right now? Good question. Didn't add up to her, she says. Can't say that I blame her. But I came across this really interesting graphic. down at the bottom, and I'll go ahead and get the, let's get this out of the way just for a minute. I'll bring it right back up. Down at the bottom here, guys, is millions of years. And we can see the carbon dioxide levels. All right. Now, when dinosaurs 100 million years ago, carbon dioxide levels were at 2,000 parts per million. Let's go back even further. Siberian traps, mass extinction. 70% of life was extinct at this period of time. Again, CO2 levels were right around close to 1,500 parts per million. Then we had a super low period of time of CO2, and that shows around close to 500 parts per million. Notice we don't have any mass extinctions or anything to do at that point. By the way, 150 parts per million is the death of all plants. CO2 levels too low to sustain plant life at that point. Okay? You guys follow me? We keep going back further and further. 400 million years, 500 million years ago. I mean, the numbers are off the charts. All right? But let's all take notice here. This is where we are right now. I know most graphs go the other way, but this one's going the opposite way. Present day is right here. Okay? As you can see, we are right around the 400 mark parts per million. So tonight's episode is going to start off with how in the world is it that now, after all these millions of years of carbon dioxide being way higher, 200 million years ago, by the way, all right, nobody was here, nobody was driving, we had dinosaurs roaming around. I guess their farts was causing the CO2 to rise, but temperatures were way warmer than what we see right now. And we are way lower in CO2 than what we are showing in this chart. So this is just one of them, okay? I've got another one I want to show you. Let's go. This is on my Twitter feed as well. Lots of stuff going on Twitter tonight. So thank you, Twitter, for hooking me up with some topics, because honestly, I was going through my Twitter feed and I thought, no, there's just too much here. I gotta go over this. We gotta talk about this. It's insane to me that we are looking at this data, this information, and then what the funny part is, okay, so, wow, Mari, I think I've been censored once again. There was another post I made up here that was promoting our website as well. Hey, oh, here we go. Bear with me, folks. I promise it's important. As I'm waiting for this page to load over at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, I posted something on my wall a little bit ago, and I thought these were important to talk about. So we heard Joe Biden talk about dangerous levels of CO2. What is that? What are dangerous levels of CO2? And here's a little bit of a breakdown of what we're talking about with CO2 levels. 250 to 350 background normal outdoor air level. 350 to 1,000 parts per million, typical level found in occupied spaces with good air exchange. So in other words, this is not crazy to see the CO2 parts per million at 350 to 1,000. 1,000 to 2,000 parts per million levels associated with complaints of drowsiness and poor air. 2,000 to 5,000 parts per million levels associated with headaches, sleeplessness, stagnant, stale, stuffy air, poor concentration, loss of attention, increased heart rate, slight nausea also may be present. So we see that there is a little bit more concern when we see CO2 at 2,000 parts per million and above. And then it gets to 5,000 parts per million and above. This indicates unusual air conditions where high levels of other gases could be present. Toxicity or oxygen deprivation could occur. This is the permissible exposure limit for daily workplace exposures. And then you get the 40,000 parts per million. This is where it kills you. 40,000 parts per million, folks, CO2. That's where it kills you. 40,000. Where is it today? Good question, right? Where is the CO2 levels today? Here they are. 409.95 parts per million. But you say, Jake, look at how much it's gone up. What has caused the acceleration of CO2 levels to rise? Maybe it is man emissions. Who knows? Even if it was, we know we had a lot warmer temperatures and a lot less CO2, so that doesn't add up. The medieval warm period was at a 270 parts per million, but yet we still had higher temperatures than what we have today. That doesn't make any sense, does it? You could say that since the 1960s that we have experienced more geological events. It's possible. More steadier volcanic eruptions. Maybe our planet was building up for the grand solar minimum. I'd also say that we've definitely seen an increase of CO2, not from man, but from recent geological events. Look at all the volcanoes that pop off on a weekly basis worldwide. The earthquakes. But folks, earthquakes release concentrated CO2 and they happen as well. All right, so there's so many ways that we get CO2 in the atmosphere. All right, we get CO2 in the air from volcanoes. We get CO2 in the air from earthquakes. Oh yeah, don't want to forget also warming temperatures, melting ice, heat leaving the ocean into the atmosphere, more CO2, so on and so forth, right? And then there's my favorite little nugget here. Thank you again, Starman. Painting a pretty picture here for us, folks. 78% nitrogen. Very true. 21% oxygen. Look at this down here at the bottom, folks. Argon is 0.93%. And then check out man-made CO2. Yeah, that right there. I don't know how much clearer we have to be to show you people that CO2 is not causing warming. And if it was the root of the problem of the climate, I mean, you would think that world leaders around the world would stop production of fossil fuels. Point blank. No more. No more cars, no more boats that have engines, no more jets, no more plants that fire off coal, none of it. Because it's causing... So, again, I want to know how the mainstream media and other people who don't believe in what we talk about, I want to know how they believe that this little tiny area of the screen, guys, and for those of you who have iPads that are watching, zoom in and look what my arrow is pointing at. Out of all those dots in that picture there's about 5 dots that make up for man-made CO2. 5 dots out of all these little tiny pixels here, guys. It just doesn't add up. Just like Greta said, it does not add up. Oh, I lied. So natural CO2, here we go. It gets small, folks. There's 1, 2, 3 little green dots. That's natural. This little red dot here at the very bottom, at the very, 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 very bottom, and I'll move this arrow out of the way, that's the man-made CO2. That's the man-made CO2 out of the entire picture. So you're telling me, AOC and Barack Obama, that little dot down there in this chart where that arrow was pointing at is the root of the cause of climate change out of all these years. All these years, dinosaurs or volcanic or all these geological events that happened in years past don't matter. That little tiny dot right there is why people are saying that we have 12 years to prepare. Are you kidding? We're at dangerous levels of CO2. And I'll tell you something right now. Since 2016, we've kind of hit a lull in CO2 rise. It jumped all the way up to 415 parts per million. Now it's starting to go down a little bit. Not from last year. I mean, last year this time it was 406 parts per million. But my point is that we've already, I think we've already seen it peaked. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It should continue to rise because of all the volcanoes that we have and all the earthquakes that we're going to have. So it should continue to rise, honestly. I guess time will tell. But I hope I'm breaking this down to most of you out there who are watching this video and are trying to learn about solar cycles and natural climate change. And it's funny too, when this current administration took office, they got rid of the words global warming. They scrubbed it off their website. They took it off the White House. Everything that Obama had on there for global warming was scrubbed. Climate change, done. And it makes you wonder too, folks, why do you think they changed the narrative from global warming to global climate or climate change? Because they knew in the future that there was no way that we could say that we're global warming anymore, okay? But if they use a vague term like climate change, well, of course the climate changes, of course. So now every time we get a hurricane or a snowstorm, or I'm sorry, not a snowstorm, but a monsoon or a hurricane or a heat wave, it's all global warming's fault, and you need to stop driving your Lexus. For those of you out there who work 2 jobs, maybe you work a factory, okay? And that factory gives off CO2 emissions. And in your second job, you deliver pizzas on the side. So your car also releases CO2. So basically, AOC and the Democrats don't want you working 2 jobs anymore because you won't be able to. There won't be a factory anymore that you work at because they're going to violate all these new laws that the Green New Policy is going to bring. You can't drive your car to deliver pizzas anymore because they're going to try to ban those as well. Or check this out. So we've had a Saudi oil field attack, and now a field in Italy has been burned as well. Explosions, whatnot. Are we just going to continue to see these oil fields just go up and this is how they're going to force us into the Green New Deal, I guess. Just skyrocket the market of oil. I mean, right now it's sitting at $61 a barrel somewhere in that area. We can afford that, right? We've seen $100 barrels before. Back in 2003, 2004, 2005. We've paid $4 a gas here in the Midwest. We've done it. But this would be different. This would be way different. And again, these people are trying to work behind the scenes to imply these policies state by state. California being the biggest and New York being the second biggest. But we'll get to all that. I just thought that I would bring this up tonight, though. Where we are right now, 409.95 parts per million. A year ago, we've only risen 3 points, roughly about 2 points almost. Three points tops. All right, 3.04 there if you want me to be exact. 3.04 parts per million is what the increase has seen. This was last updated September 5th, 2019. Life without fossils is decades away, so it is time to embrace them and work with fossils, not against. They show the increased use of these fossil fuels. Wood is the baseline, not going up much. Coal, oil, gas, nuclear. I mean, folks, they lay it out, the increase that we've used. So one could say there is an increase of CO2 because of that. Look at the chart. It matches. It matches. I get it. I get it. Look, I get it. You guys look at the bottom chart. 1960, we're almost at 320 parts. So we're still at 300 parts per million probably around 1960 compared to today. All right, you see where it's at now? So yeah, I guess it has gone up a little bit since the 60s, since we're burning coal, oil, and gas. All right? But just because it's went up 100 parts per million, not even that, really. 80 parts per million tops. Since 1960. And if we continue to develop carbon capture technology for coal and oil we're going to be winning there. Natural gas is already the cleanest source of energy. Hydro and other renewables are okay. Wood, yeah, even wood, believe it or not, does not release that much CO2. So tonight's show is going to be riddled with all kinds of stuff that's going to be related to CO2 and the constant lie of how it's changing the climate. But first, I want to talk about climate change cultists filling their followers with anxiety. How long before the suicides start? This is according to RT. Until recently, climate change was a phenomenon debated by scientists, policymakers, and Greenpeace crusaders. But doomsday prophets pushing climate fear into the mainstream have anxious liberals running for professional help. Activist groups around the world prepare to stage a global climate strike this Friday, September 20th. Eco-warriors in Washington, D.C. have been staging smaller rallies and outreach events all summer. Behind the drum circles, yoga classes, and hacky-sacking that accompanies such events, a cauldron of anxiety has bubbled. According to the Daily Beast, millennial activists, those striving for the same goals concerned by climate scientists worldwide, are losing their minds, convinced that the end of the world is happening. They're turning to the group therapy sessions to deal with their feelings of despair, depression, and anxiety. I suffer from that as well, but it's not caused by climate change. Oh, it's an inside joke from Ari and I.
God.
Good old YouTube. Anyway, people would say, isn't that the world is ending in 12 years? It's in the back of people's minds. It's constantly over our heads, an organizer with Sunrise Movement told the site. There's a real fear for the next generation thinking of the future. I can't imagine planning for the future when we only have 12 years. Well, that's pretty depressing. It's dark. I agree. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that it's not a knock at millennials, first of all. We're not trying to make fun of people who believe in global warming and who are part of these activist groups. I'm not trying to knock them or make fun of them. Some of them do have some issues. Some of these people that we see at these rallies have some real serious social issues. I've seen interviews with tons of people who believe that man is causing global warming, but yet I feel like after watching them talk in an interview, they might need some professional help. It's crazy. AOC, this is a technique of the GOP to take dry humor, sarcasm literally and fact check it. Like the world is ending in 12 years thing. You'd have to have the social intelligence of a sea sponge to think it's literal. Why say it then, AOC? Why say it? You're a leader of the United States of America. You're in Congress. Why would you state such a thing if you're just being a dry humor, sarcastic person and that people literally fact check? Of course they're going to fact check it. Whenever you make a claim like that, telling people that the world's going to end in 12 years, and now there's people, like you're pushing this so hard, these people are taking it to heart. So they don't even want to think about planning for the future. No. In fact, there are actual considerations. Some of these folks out here are considering suicide. Some of these folks in their 20s are depressed. Depressed because they're being told by the people they voted for that the world's going to end. And then you see mainstream media attacking the Trump administration because he's inhumane, he's evil, he's not doing anything to protect us from climate change. You can't do anything. And then the faster that you people realize that you can't do anything about climate change, the quicker we're all going to be on the same page, the quicker we can form a plan and work together. This whole climate change thing and grand solar minimum, it's just like, you know, Democrats and Republicans. We're divided. The mainstream media and the celebrities run the world when it comes to global warming. But then you talk to people who are sensible, who are logic and intelligent, Valentina Zarkova, John Casey, those people, they were warning everybody. Why? Valentina Zarkova was just curious and found the grand solar minimum and found the super grand solar minimum cycle. She was curious. She wasn't out there looking for global warming or global cooling. She was looking for the patterns in the sun's magnetic field. And her results showed something way different than what she was probably looking for in the first place. And it confirmed and correlated with other grand solar minimums. Now, the only minimum period that does not line up with her work is the Spoyer minimum. And during the Spoyer minimum, and I hate to use this as an excuse or a defense, but the consensus of the scientists for the Spoyer minimum all agree that that was caused by a nearby supernova. Which does, cycles are meant to be broken, right? It does happen from time to time, not often, it's rare, and it's showing its face as rare. Just like if this grand solar minimum didn't happen, it would be a shocker. I mean, it would be historic. Not only haven't lived through one before, but no one's ever lived to see one not happen when it was supposed to happen. So, lots of stuff interesting tonight. All kinds of weird things on the internet, Twitter mainly. And I want to share some of this stuff. So this article here talks about suicides, depression, anxiety. Yeah, and that's all from the Democrats. The folks who are pushing this cult-like idea that me and you are causing climate change. But I just showed you that the CO2 levels were way higher millions of years ago. Millions of years ago. And the same people that say trust in the science would deny us that information. But yet, it's in the ice cores. It's in the sediments. That's how we know it's millions of years ago. There's nothing different about that science. Their scientists can look at the same ice cores and come up with the same conclusions. That's what I'm trying to explain. But yet, they still want to tell everyone that it's your fault. Man is causing it, and we're going to do something. This attitude of Captain Save-A-Ho is basically what it is from the Democrats. We're going to do something because nobody else is doing it, and we're about progression and change, and let's do it. And these people are just blinded by stupidity. And I'll go on further, too, because there's a few articles in here that talk about some of the predictions. But this is the main reason why I went on the air tonight. EPA to unveil plan to take away California's authority on car emissions. Now, I want to make this clear to you folks. The Trump administration will announce it's rescinding California's authority to regulate greenhouse emissions from automobiles on Wednesday. According to the people familiar with the matter, the move sure to set off a legal battle with most populous state. The Environmental Protection Agency intends to announce it will revoke the so-called waiver underpinning California's power to set vehicle greenhouse gas standards separately from the Trump administration broader rule to ease federal vehicle efficiency standards, which is expected in the weeks ahead. The people said the people asked not to be identified discussing the plans prior to the announcement. Again, this goes back to my point. If man-made global emissions were killing us, do you really think the President of the United States, I mean, come on, put it down. Take off your tinfoil hat. Do you really think the President of the United States is out to kill the United States? I mean, think about it. The way these people are reacting to this on Twitter is ridiculous. I thought the states had the rights to choose. I thought the states were going to govern themselves. All this plan is doing is taking away the state of California's right to set regulations on miles per gallon, stuff of that nature with CO2 emissions from vehicles. It is not taking away the state of California's right to regulate these power plants, these other major corporations that burn CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. President Trump is leaving those plans that fight smog and pollution intact. Okay? So this isn't Trump taking anyone's rights away or punishing the state of California. It's just simply saying, look, the federal government has a federal standard, and you're going to follow that federal standard when it comes to emissions from automobiles. Now, if the administration was trying to be a dictatorship, it would simply say you have no control of any regulations whatsoever when it comes to CO2. That's being a dictatorship. But Trump is leaving the plans in place that help fight pollution, that help fight smog. Again, it's 2019. The emissions that come out of vehicles today versus cars that ran in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, think about this, guys. Think about this. From the mid 70s all the way up until the mid 90s, we had the worst cars that burned oil all the time, the constant muffler smoke. I remember more CO2 emissions coming out of a car when I was a kid. Think about all the regulations that we have in place now that weren't in place in the 60s and 70s, and yet CO2 was still nowhere near the levels they are today, and we have regulations in place. That should be a huge red flag to all of you out there, that your emissions are not on a scale that is big enough to affect the concentration of CO2 that's in the atmosphere. It's just that simple. So if cars back then were worse and they put more pollution in the air, all right, then why are the CO2 numbers less than what they are today? Just looking at this chart, we have better regulated automobile emissions, and yet we still are dealing with CO2 rise. And that is because CO2 rise is natural. It comes from the earth. Look at this, guys. 1958-ish. All right, we were below the 320 parts per million mark. What does that mean to me? With vehicles that had bad mufflers or burning oil or burning gasoline, didn't have any kind of miles per gallon back then because gas was so cheap, we were just burning it all the time. I get it. So I think we were pumping way more CO2 in the atmosphere in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then around the 90s, people started getting, environmentally conscious. So there's been attempts out there to reduce the amount of carbon that goes into our atmosphere. And yet, even though there are countries that report, United States reported 2.7% decrease in CO2, yet we still see it on the rise. Other countries around the world who are trying to meet their Paris Climate Treaty targets, they are struggling to do so. They're not even coming close to the targets they've set for themselves. They have to push this back to themselves. Everybody was saying, well, by 2030, well, around 50% or more will be without fossil fuels. Now they're saying 2040, 2050, because the realistic people out there know how long it's going to take people to cut off of the fossil fuel industry. But again, if we only have 12 years, why are there different politicians saying 2030, 2040, 2050? Because they don't know. None of them know, not even the Republicans. I haven't seen any real climate science on either side of the aisle yet. They should be taking the advice of people like Dr. Roy Spencer Jr., John Christie, Willie Soon. They should be taking the advice of people like that. No, those people aren't tied in with any political party. They don't receive any lobbyist money. Nothing like that. Hell, Roy Spencer doesn't even really pick a side. He doesn't say he's a warmist or a coolest. He just says that CO2 is not the problem. I know I'm a little riled up tonight, but I mean, I'm jumping up and down here because California is taking away the automobile regulation that they had. It's not working. Somebody posted a picture of Los Angeles and the smog that happened today. Said, yeah, real nice way to take away our automobile regulations. Hey, if you're still seeing smog like that, it sure as hell ain't from the cars. And it ain't working. The pictures that I saw, the smog in LA, those regulations were not working. They weren't even affecting anything. Again, because man's contributions to the CO2 in the atmosphere is ridiculously small. You can't even fathom it, people. So again, Trump plans to scale back on regulations on automobile emissions. He is not taking away the power for Californians and business owners to fight smog and air pollution. He is just simply resetting the automobile industry as far as where they set their CO2 emissions at. Because, again, he has people surrounded by him that are telling him, sir, I know you're against the grain on everything else, but guess what? CO2 is not warming the planet. We're cooling. That's a promise. All right, so let's move on here. Speaking of, where's that one article at? Here we go. I want to see this one real quick because then I want to show you the one in Australia. Quotes, 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 and more quotes. Nope, this isn't it. Close though. Where's it at? Not that one either. Where did it go? Oh my gosh. I had another article I thought here, Mar.
What are you looking for?
This article.
Uh-oh. The dog is mad.
Well, he's mad because, you know, CO2
It's
didn't do
probably
it.
because of me, Jake. This impromptu show. You see how well prepared we are impromptu. Are you looking for the other what's up with that article?
Yeah.
They were right next to each other unless something didn't. Is this
Nope,
it?
nope. That has nothing to do with it. Let's go to the logo real quick so we don't have to make everybody watch
Yeah,
all
we'll
this.
not make you dizzy. How's that? You, it was one of the ones you sent to me then, hey? Is that right,
Just
Jake?
go, what's up with that? So
It's gonna take you right to the link. You didn't send it to me.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. What's this?
There's only two what's up with that articles.
That's not it.
Well,
Where's it at?
you're just gonna have to wing it, Jake. That's the beauty of being live, huh? Hi, everyone. It's Mari.
All right.
The Peanut Gallery. Everyone loves I'm a great filler, Jake. Are you
It's
gonna find it?
Totally.
Hi, what picture were you talking about? Smog.
It was on Twitter. It was on the I was reading some of the comments on this actual story on Politico on Twitter, and they were showing pictures of smog and, you know, like just trying to lay it on as if this is what's going to happen if
I just want to add to this that, you know, I lived in Los Angeles, actually Glendale, North Hollywood. I hopped around for 3 years in California. There's an interesting phenomena off the coast when you live in California. It's called marine layer, and it's sort of interesting. You'll be inland and it'll be a beautiful sunny day, like if you're in Glendale, and you'll be like, I want to go to the beach, let's go. And the closer you get to the beach, the more foggy and condensed the clouds are, and that layer, it takes a few hours to actually burn up. I'm wondering if people are confusing the smog with
maybe
the actual marine layer. Look it up. It's an actual term, marine layer. And I never even knew about it until I lived in California. Let me just hop in the chat real quick. You're just not having any luck finding it, Jake?
Yeah, I'm very disappointed because
I'm sorry.
Oh, here it is. I found it.
Oh.
It
Yeah,
is this article. Okay, I just didn't expect it to be on that article. So you had it up.
I'll do a sound effect. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, you had it up. I just didn't realize it was that
Yeah.
one. So,
Okay.
all right. So let's go
Happy
back
call.
to our website here because I found it, and unfortunately, it was right there in front of my face, but I just didn't recognize it with the skier guy here. Well, not that. There we go. All right, so let's check it out, shall we? Now, this guy wants to bring up that we are looking at a climate crisis in Australia. 2019 is officially the parachuters' longest ski season in memory. By the way, they're keeping their ski resort open until October 13th. But here are some fun facts that we've had over the past years. Here's some quotes. Snowfall will become a very rare and exciting event. Children aren't just going to know what snow is. That was from David Viner, Senior Scientist, Climate Research Unit. Goodbye winter, never again snow. That was Spiegel in 2000. Mild winter temperatures will decrease heavy snowstorms. That was the IPCC in 2001. End of snow, New York Times 2014. Oh boy. We just continue to see this stuff. 97% of the experts agreed to 2000. David Viner, the University of East Anglia's Climate Research Unit. Snowfall become a very rare and exciting thing. That's obviously not true. We saw some of the deepest snowfalls that we've ever seen in our lifetime last year, especially in Europe. You had milder winters, and this is great. All these quotes that I just read you are here. Snow has become so rare when it does fall, often just for a few hours, everything grinds to a halt. In early 2003, a mighty 5 centimeter snow fell in southeast England, caused severe traffic jams, and that many motorists had to stay in their cars overnight. Today, kids are missing out. Many of these changes are already underway, but have been accelerating over the last 2 decades. Termites have already moved into southern England. Garden centers are beginning to stock exotic subtropical species. Oh my God. Okay, 2004, Mark Lanus. Starman, let me know if you guys are stocking up on exotic tropical seeds over there. Just curious. Christopher Call in 2005, Black Forest Tourism Association, Spiegel, planning for a snowless future. Our study is already showing that there will be a much worse situation in 20 years. You're damn right. You're damn right it'll be a much worse situation in 25 years. And that's the problem with these global warmists. They're hijacking what's happening in the grand solar minimum. They're going to talk about all the bad weather that's going to be here in 10 to 12 years. That has nothing to do with warming. They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to call it climate change because they don't have to get behind if it's warming or cooling. But I like this article because it has lots of quotes in here from people from back in the day. First the snow disappears and then there's winter. So they're trying to tell you that overall snow, cold will disappear here soon. Enjoy the snow in 2012, it says. It'll be gone by 2020. That was in the Australian. Now look what happened. They're extending their ski season. By the way, it's spring over there, but they're extending it through October 13th, folks. That's like our May, essentially. April or May, I'm not sure. Again, leave a link on the website. So much global warming out there, but yet the ski resorts in Australia are staying open through late spring. Yeah. Early snow wreaks havoc in Norway, you don't say. Intense weather started hitting the Vestland, western Norway on September 14th, 2019, with strong storm winds and snow all over the area. The extreme conditions resulted in uprooted trees, knocked down power lines, and floods and landslides. Wow, they get the whole basket here. Up to 7.8 inches of snow was dumped in some parts of the mountains. Many others were also evacuated due to flooding and landslides as well. After the torrential rains, the extreme storms also prompted officials to close several roads, including RV 52 and 10 other county roads from Lauderdale to Geiranger to Strine was also closed immediately, leaving tourists disappointed. How about being thankful you're safe? Again, this is just another example of how, we're not supposed to see snow anywhere. It's over with. But here it is. Early September. This is the northern hemisphere. Looks like a lot of snow to me. I forgot what 7 to 8 inches looks like because it's been warm lately. Not looking forward to this, guys. Not this soon. No way. Guys, sit tight. We'll be right back. I want to give you some information really quick on the radio show and how to be a part of it. Just sit back and watch this quick little video. We'll be right back after this message.
People cannot possibly plan for every contingency. They can't.
Well, I watched the original video many years ago about the story about C02, which was a propaganda deal from Margaret Thatcher during the coal strike.
We might lose the power grid. I mean, who knows? The grand solar minimum with volcanoes, with earthquakes, with solar flares penetrating Earth's magnetic field when it's down. I mean, right now, this is the weakest we've seen it in 200 and some years.
But it noticed a huge difference this summer. Very difficult to grow anything. We planted things over and over and over up here just to try to get something to grow.
I've always kind of been interested in the cycles, and my background of taking botany and horticulture classes basically found out there was larger cycles repeating over smaller cycles and even larger cycles of ups and downs in climate, dry periods, warm periods, cold periods, wet periods.
I look at details. I was raised in the military. My father was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He was a pilot. At the end of his career, he was a helicopter rescue pilot in Vietnam before he got shot down. He was always like, Cynthia, it's not enough to have a plan A and a plan B. You better have a plan C, D, E, and F, because if anything has taught me anything, stuff goes all to pieces in seconds, and you better have a backup plan to your backup plan to your backup plan.
I think the most important thing for people to do is to try to build their relationships with the people in their neighborhoods and their community, depending on how big their community is. And they really need to get to know what other people are doing and how they're thinking. Because if anything happens, that's the people that's going to be knocking on your door. And I think the other thing is kind of keep your mouth shut.
Thank you for staying rational and sane, and I'll talk to you again.
I wasn't expecting a lot of callers tonight.
Well, and this is the beginning.
It was so good. It was better than watching the Cleveland Browns.
Wow.
Matt taking shots on the live show.
Please join us for our next call-in show on Patreon. Like our supporter Richard said, no one is as smart as everyone working together.
All right, guys. So if you want to be a part of the call-in show this Saturday, 8 p.m. on our Patreon channel, you know what to do. $1 gets you on. $1 gets you the number. You will be a part of the show. All you have to do is call the show. We are talking about making limits on the phone calls. It was our first show last time. We kind of let people take as much time as they want, but I think it's going to be safer to pick a time limit. We haven't yet decided on what the time limit will be, but we will have more of a structured radio show in the future as more members continue to join our Patreon. But again, we have many levels of subscription. You can go $1, you can go $2, you can go $5, you can go as much as you want on the levels, but it doesn't require more than $1 donation. The other levels are just there if you choose to join at that level. But like I said, folks, $1 gets you the phone number, makes you a Patreon member. Also, we will probably eventually, things will be shifting here soon. So it's a good idea for you folks out there who are not yet on Patreon. Again, $1 a month. I know. Join us there. There won't be any censorship. We won't have the problems that we're having. You know, we were looking at our analytics today, and only about 16% of our subscribers are getting their push notifications. That's it. Folks, that is disgusting. That's gross. More people should be aware of this information. This kind of information can save your life, actually. And yet only 16% of the notifications are going out. It's sad because there are people out there who do hit that notification bell and something happens automatically where YouTube unsubscribes them or turns off the notifications. They miss the show, they lose contact. Next thing you know, they're unsubscribed. They don't even know it. We've heard it all. So we're trying to remedy that situation, and this is one of the ways to do it. Yes, there's $1 membership fee a month. I get it. That's $12 a month, folks. If you enjoy the content that you get on the Grand Solar Minimum channel and want this to continue the way it is right now and better, $1 a month. I don't think $12 a year is too much, honestly. I could be wrong, but again, there is an investment that's to be made when it comes to these call-in shows. There's money you have to spend. You just can't go out there and get a radio call-in show number and have screeners and all that stuff. That's not free. So again, just wanted to throw that out there to you folks. We had a great time Saturday night talking to all of you out there. We look forward to talking to even more people as we go into the future and getting regular callers and new callers every week. Just really exciting things happening to the Grand Solar Minimum channel beyond just the YouTube stuff. All right, so let me go over this last little article here before I go to our weather. Tim Flannery admits his 20 years of climate activism are a colossal failure. Wow. The gloves are off. Predatory climate deniers are a threat to our children. Woo. Okay. I don't like being used in that statement there as a climate denier. I always told you people that I don't deny climate change. I deny man-made climate change. And the fact that they want to lump everybody in with this one little climate denier group and accuse us of being a threat to the future of our children. But it says here, in this age of rapidly melting glaciers, these are all lies, by the way, terrifying mega fires, which, by the way, the mega fires are less today than they were back in the 30s, and the hurricanes, which also are less landfalls than before, and rising oceans. All of those statements right there, 100% false. Overdoing it. It's hard to believe that any further prod to climate action is needed. But the reality is that we continue to live in a business as usual world. Our media is filled with enthusiastic announcements about new fossil fuel projects and the unveiling of the latest fossil fuel supercar, as if there's no relationship between such things and climate change. You got it, buddy. You finally got it. That's it. That's exactly why business as usual. Because the relationship between fossil fuels and climate change does not exist. Period. Air pollution and pollution of your water, yes, that exists. Colossal failure of climate activism. Each year, the situation becomes more critical. In 2018, global emissions of greenhouses rose by 1.7%, while the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere jumped up 3.5 parts per million. The largest ever observed increase. I just showed you guys 3.5 parts per million increase, guys. That is just a little bit more than the increase that we've seen from last year to this year. Can't make this stuff up, guys. They are so overdoing it. Over-exaggerating this. I'm showing you guys how little it is. They're trying to tell you how big it is. No climate report or warning, no political agreement, nor technological innovation has altered the ever upward trajectory of the pollution. This simple fact forces me to look back at my 20 years of climate activism as a colossal failure. Far fewer humans will survive our warming planet. The future. Here's another thing I want to tell you, that they're trying to blame it on man-made climate change here. That 7.6 billion it supports today. British scientist James Lovelock has predicted a future human population of just 1 billion people. Mass deaths are predicted, the result from, among other causes, disease outbreaks, air pollution, malnutrition and starvation, heat waves, and suicide. These are what's going to be the demise of the human race, according to this guy. Everything that they mentioned, though, disease outbreaks, grand solar minimum. Malnutrition, starvation, grand solar minimum. Suicide, grand solar minimum. Crop loss, crop failure. People can't feed their families, can't pay their bills. Anxiety is already high. Plus, we already know there's a connection between cosmic rays and mental health and cardio health. So increased cosmic rays creates more stress. That intense pain, that intense anxious feeling you get in your chest might have something to do with the increased cosmic rays that our bodies absorb on a daily basis compared to what we used to. But they want to blame it all on global warming, climate change, man-made. But yet they keep listing out the results of what's going to happen during a grand solar minimum if we step into this unprepared with our pants down around our ankles. Now, if we're aware of the grand solar minimum, we have a fighting chance. If we're aware of what to prep and how to grow and where to grow and how to do it, we have a chance. I know all of you out there like to talk about Agenda 2031, the depopulation of our planet. Yeah, you're right. This would seem like the perfect culprit. Let's not tell anybody about the grand solar minimum. Let's just let nature do its thing. If these people aren't prepared, they're not going to survive it. The elites will survive, we'll be taken care of, and we'll start all over again. New world order, right? I get it. I can see why people would think that. The number two reason why they don't admit about it is because there's too much money being thrown around for global warming and climate change research. Too many people would be probably... I could see criminal charges being pressed against some of these activists for misleading humans, for misleading civilization. I mean, can you imagine having to be the judge that has to rule on that case? What's your crime? Tried to kill mankind. How do you sentence that? How do you go about punishing somebody for that? Well, the proof is they were pushing a lie for 30 years that could have got people even in more danger or killed. It's a crazy world we live in, guys. You know, they put all this stuff in your face about climate change, and you know, we got Greta up there talking about, well, if this was killing us, then why don't they simply stop it? Because it's not really killing you. This is just a plan to change the way the world works. The economy, everything. Look, people are thriving right now. In some places, not all over. I know the economy is not rosy everywhere. In certain spots it is, in certain spots it still sucks. All right, there's still work to be done in this country. But man, there are places that are thriving, and that's driving the elite crazy. And what a perfect out that a natural weather phenomena such as the grand solar minimum to wipe us all out without warning. Not the case for you guys and the people that are around you and your family and friends. You have an option. You can share this information with them. You can tell them about this. And they're going to look at you and say, well, this guy's crazy. We all know the consensus is, but then start showing them how many scientists actually said that, what the consensus of 97% actually meant. I think, what was it, like 2,000 or 3,000 scientists agreed? How many scientists do we have throughout the world? It's going to take more than 3,000 scientists to tell me that man is causing global warming, or climate change. There's 30,000 scientists right now that'll tell you that the world runs on natural cycles. But they're getting ignored. The IPCC will ignore that information. NOAA will ignore that information. Not Trump. He's slowly but surely unraveling that sweater. Just like in the song by Weezer. All right, let's take a look at the weather. Oh, one more article, guys, check it out. Why today's renewable cannot power modern civilization. It has a great breakdown of renewables and fossil fuels and what they do, what they cost, and yada, 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 yada. How many times have I showed you articles and links that do show us that electricity bills worldwide go way up when solar and wind is a part of the grid? I want to read this real quick. The article cannot discuss the details of global warming. However, it is very worrying that young people are taught in schools to fear the warming created by fossil fuel burning. We had 1 degree of warming in the past 200 years. The human cause has much more to do with the heat than our existence. Interesting, they use the 200 year. It warmed up 1 degree in 200 years. It's about to lose that degree of warming, if that's the case. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, we could go on all night, guys. I really could. And that's the beauty about our channel here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. It's not going anywhere for a long time as long as the grid holds up. As long as we don't get hit by an EMP or anything like that, this channel's here for a long, long time to tell the truth about what's happening to our climate. Not some guess or not some politician who wants to make a deal because it's going to put more money in their pocket. Take a quick look at our GFS, guys. Let's see if this is the latest 18Z forecast. Umberto is going bye-bye. Like we showed you this morning, nothing's really changed in the patterns. Even the storm behind it, nothing's going to happen with that. There is quickly something to talk about, though. I'm not going to show all this. Let's go over what's happening right now in Texas. Actually, that's more newsworthy than just looking at a radar and guessing what could happen. This is a tropical depression. It is now on land, Houston to be exact. They're expecting around 5 to 10 inches of rain, but localized areas could see more. And I'm talking about the 15 inches of rain. Galveston, Houston. Beaumont might get in on the action here later. But the biggest thing about this storm is that it is sitting over Houston and Galveston just stalled out right now. It's not moving. It's playing a Harvey on us, except it's not as big and as powerful as Harvey. But still, 10 to 15 inches of rain, that's quite a bit of precipitation for a 24-hour period. Let's get the official stats on Umberto. 115 mile an hour winds. Oh, wait, that's not what I want. Amelia. 35 mile an hour winds is actually decreased. It's moving north 7 miles per hour. But they are expecting this thing to kind of just sit and park over Houston and Galveston area, as anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of rain are expected from this storm. Nothing major, tropical, or anything like that. Just some heavy rain. We've all seen Houston flood out, and that is probably what's going to end up happening. Weather Channel did call it life-threatening flood, so we do have to take this a little serious. Not to raise alarm, but I know folks that live in the Gulf, and here's an important fact to show right now as well. Where that tropical depression is, look at that. It's in warm waters. In fact, the only patch in the Gulf that's really worth talking about is in the area where this tropical depression is. So, we'll keep an eye on this storm as well. I do want to look at some temperatures. Again, we took a look at this morning. Nothing much has changed from this morning till tonight. I don't feel like we have to go into this once again, the whole entire forecast. There's your warming temperatures fighting it, cooler air coming into the northwest and the northeast by the end of the month. And there is some slight ridging of warmer air trying to make its way back up into the northeast. But this run is proving that it might just stay to the south and not invade the northeast. Although October 1st looks pretty warm here. Upstate New York, near the capital region, 81 degrees for the high. But like I said earlier, places in Nebraska are going to be in the 70s and 60s. And then from the northwest moving forward, we will see some colder air filter into the United States. And wow. So we definitely are going to see, according to the GFS forecast here, we could see some warm temperatures for this time of year for places like Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, New York. Right now, we should be in the 70s and upper 60s. And we're seeing some 80 temperatures popping up left and right. So a pattern flip, definitely. We'll have to watch the contrast of this cold front. Look at the difference in daytime highs, though. 43 degrees in Montana, 68 in McCook. And then you go into central Kansas and it's almost 20 degrees warmer. So winter is not far, folks. Neither is fall. We'll have to continue to monitor everything as we continue to watch our space weather, our climate here on Earth, hurricanes, cold, snow, you name it. Mari, do you want to come over here and say hello to everybody?
Sure.
Again?
I'll come over and say
I mean,
again.
they love you, so
I
why
won't
not?
talk about marine layer and bore people, but
No,
I would like to thank
I wasn't bored.
everyone. Oh, I didn't bore you? Well, that's great. Back to just to rewind how much I love that call-in show and how great it was to hear from people. Our people right here in the chat, your ideas, your thoughts, your worries, your challenges you're facing. I love hearing that, and I think those stories are so important to hear. So thank you for making that first live call-in show awesome. I'm still blown away.
Well, and it's good to hear.
Just
It's good to hear from the subs because you always hear from me and you about how crazy it's going to be, and then when you hear from the people who are actually doing the prep too, and they have what they've observed, it really hits home.
Well, and it really, for me, it pulled the community aspect of everything together. Hearing from all the people, having a voice to the name, and hearing you first person, there's something very special about that, and I don't know, I'm very sensitive and emotional. I'm getting all clipped. I'm sorry. Anyway, Matt Bros and Sam Conley, thank you very much for your super chats. That's very kind. We had a few mods in the chat. I'd like to give them a shout out. Thank you for keeping things legit in the chat. Not that you guys are all rascals misbehaving, but Cheryl, Matt Bros, Thor, and a shout out to David Birch, because he's not in here, but he has no idea how much we just love him. He seriously is a brother from another mother to us.
Absolutely.
I mean, what a kindred spirit he
Inspiration
is
too
to us. There has been some things in the chat that were brought up today that just sometimes takes my breath away. Some channels just are very careless with some of the things that they say, and it means so much to me when I find people that have integrity and truly care about what kind of message they're putting out and vetting the information. David Birch with his data, thank you. And Teo from Watchers.
Yeah.
We're really blessed to be
surrounded by really good people.
By some people. There are people in this so-called truth community that really are trying to steer the ship straight and keep things legit. So thank you. And it's always a pleasure. We weren't expecting to go on live, but Jake, you got wound up on Twitter, and it wound up being a great discussion. And you know what I was really excited about? I was really excited about that you used GSM Social, and you were using something you shared on GSM Social.
Well, yeah, that's where we need to start.
We've never done that.
That's where we need to be. Look, guys, we need to get off of Facebook. Facebook is censoring people.
Just show people this.
We need to look. You guys can come to our website and register.
Close out of that. There's a little X on the bottom there.
You guys can come here. This is set up just like Facebook.
This is Jake's profile. He has friends on the right-hand side. He can post links. He can write down his thoughts, post a picture. It is such a cool format. And I spent so much time getting it to work. It's just to see it in use was awesome. So hopefully more people will use that, and the more people that use it, the more I can sync into the website to make it run faster and host more images, all that. So definitely check it out, and I think we should use this more on the show to show people.
Yeah.
Because we're so censored on social media platforms. It's not a safe place out there. And the only thing I think the only thing that would make me delete a post is if it was vulgar or disrespectful. You know, if you have a differing point of view, I can just leave a comment and say, you know what, I don't quite agree with this. As long as people aren't disrespectful, that's the only time I would censor. It's a safe place for people to go and post stuff without having to worry about being called fake news and being called a climate denier because you don't believe in the narrative that whatever platform is trying to dictate.
So here's a couple things that I put on my wall today. This, like I said, this is just like Facebook, guys. You can like it.
Go to the community feed.
You can like it. You could share it on social media. If you have everything signed into your computer, you can just click on whatever social media group that you want to share it to.
Up on the main menu, you can actually click to see the feed to see what other people are sharing. GSM Social Community Feed. And
this is with everybody. So yeah,
you can friend people that you have become acquaintances in the chat, and you know there's private messaging. It's set up like social networking. I can't read your private messages. It's a neat platform. Seriously cool. So if you have questions about it, just email me right on the GSM social site and I will answer. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I've been a lot better about getting back to people within the past week. Now that people are starting to sort of use it.
Brian friended me. Thank you, Milky Way Weekly.
Oh yeah.
But here's the community feed. So here's where Mari's got her post. And then, of course, me. I know it just looks like me and Mari right now, but it's very new.
Well,
and,
somebody got their license.
Brandon and Brian Barnett and Morgan.
Morgan got their driver's license.
Mari again. Oh. And there's Diana's post. I mean, look, guys, this is just like Facebook.
People are sharing their own articles.
Just like Facebook. And you can write your own articles. You can post pictures. You can post link articles the way they have it set up. I mean, again, this is going above and beyond, and that's why, honestly, that's why we don't mind asking folks to join us at Patreon for $1 a month.
Well, and everything we do is a reinvestment into this community in trying to grow and get the word out, because the narrative is very heavily dictated, and to get our information out is supremely challenging. So thank you for participating and using what we have out there. That's all I got, Jake.
Thank you very much, Mari. That's going to do it for us tonight on this special edition of the Grand Solar Minimum News. Be sure to check in with us tomorrow night at 9 p.m. live on the Grand Solar Minimum channel for another Grand Solar Minimum News update. Also, be looking for that solar update tomorrow morning as well. Until next time, folks, we will talk soon. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.